Welcome to Remember the Future.
Welcome.
Today we initiate an art project and you can watch it rise with the sun behind us. And this art project, as you can see in its name, is about the future. And it's about how do we shape a future that we love? How do we first find out what kind of future it is and then make it happen? And it's called Remember the Future because I think everything we need to have re-emerge to have a beautiful future is something that we already know and something we just need to remember what it was.
The future already exists in some form.
Yes.
And it's more like a memory
Yes.
that you discover or rediscover. So we don't need to make shit up.
No.
It's already there. We just
We
need
need
to
to-
remember.
Just perceive it. It's like the perception of the past everybody knows is remembering, but the perception of the future is just as real as the perception of the past. The idea is just that the future is more fluid. So you cannot say certainly that what you saw will happen in the future will happen in the future. You can say it certainly if you make it happen. If you see, wow, that's a beautiful possibility, and then you are really what's the word? Like then you really
motivated or inspired.
yeah, then you're really inspired to do it, and then you make it happen. Then you can tell the future for sure. But if you just watch and don't act, then you're not very certain of what will happen.
A vision is a memory from the future.
Yes. Yes, and we need to start to look at the future again with our own eyes. Because we've been told so many horrible apocalypse stories about the future, and we started to believe them. And by believing them, we are inspired to make them happen. And this is not... And also we act that way, because we think we are doomed anyway. Nobody tries to do anything. And this very passive state then just makes that apocalyptic idea happen.
And it all is rooted in this kind of Newtonian misunderstanding in our culture, that we kind of think the future out there is separate from us, like an objective train rolling through its tracks, and all we can do is kind of position ourselves in the statistically most likely place to not take harm.
Yes.
This is like the very myopic and kind of depressing view that our culture has subtly taken on. And we started to call this alternative, more in touch with reality kind of attitude, hyperstition. Meaning like the idea that you can see the future and the future is objective and already determined is often dismissed as superstition. So hyperstition kind of plays with that and says, no, if you go one step further and you recognize that your perception of the future actually creates it, the story with which you hold the future is an invitation for the future to become that, then you're onto something. And you feel it. Like you feel it on a level that resonates. You're like, oh, I remember, this is how the game works. And we just have been told so confused framings of how this all happens, and now you want to bring this understanding into the world in an embodied way.
Because the idea is you can see this hyperstition idea very clearly if you interact with other people. If you think, oh, he is gonna rob me if I go down this alley, then you invite him to do that. If you think, oh, I really don't like him, you invite him not to like you either, because you will not be very nice to him either if you think you don't like the person. And then how will they behave to you? Exactly in the way you thought that you won't like them, because you invite them to be that way. And the idea is that not only humans are beings, but the future is a being as well. And the future wants to teach you how to really trust. Because if you trust her, she will treat you well. And that's what we've been doing the last few years, learning to trust the future more, and also learning to accept the past to release the future. And I think this is very, very important for everybody to know, that it's possible. If you learn to trust the future, you shape your future. Suddenly you make up in which way you go. You say, oh, I have this big dream, and then you trust that the future wants to give it to you, and then it wants to. And you invite it, and then you write together the most beautiful story that you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what this project is all about.
Exactly.
Yes. And a big part of it is that you see the spirit in everything. And this is why the project has a spirit council of spirits that guard the message, of spirits that tell their stories and their teachings to us. And I would like to introduce them. We have 13 different spirits. The first one is the turtle, and the turtle is kind of the head of the council. And if you imagine the place where they meet, they have a table, a big round table in the middle, and the table is shaped like the back of a turtle, like this. I don't know if you can see this. And like on the back of the turtle you have these different plates, and in fact there are 13 of them. So you can for each plate assign one of the guardians of the project, including the turtle, so you have this nice fractal idea happening. We will show a picture somewhere.
The word rests on the back of a turtle.
Right, yes.
So does the Spirit Council.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes, and the turtle's teaching is all about the fear of your own power. And I think that's very important in this project. And I can also speak on a very personal level, that once you understand how powerful you are, once you understand that everything that happens in your life is your own doing, if something really bad happens, you kind of made it happen. It's not no one else's fault. You have all the power in your hands. And that can be very scary, because we always learned that we don't have that kind of power. And then you get kind of scared.
Which is exactly what we just talked about. There are many, many complex reasons why our culture has this weird bias of seeing ourselves separate from what could be and not in control of it. But I think one deep one is actually this very subtle fear of our own power. Because on a certain level it's much easier to view oneself as the victim of this creation instead of co-creator of it. Because it is a tremendous honor, but also a tremendous duty to wield that power well. The good news is, once you realize that you have this co-creative capacity, that comes with the recognition that allies are everywhere.
Yes.
And the future is the most powerful ally.
Yes.
And it's actually very wise.
Yes.
You don't really need to do that stuff.
Yes.
But before you go there, it's hard to recognize that. So this is one big reason.
Yes. And also part of the a very interesting insight I had about this idea was that I was afraid of my own power, because I was afraid to make really powerful mistakes.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I already did them. That was why my past was not as beautiful as my future is now, because I was wielding my power thoughtlessly. I was giving thought to destructive ideas. I was giving very much thought for doubt and like bad visions of the future, and then they happened. And now looking back, you really don't need to be afraid to make mistakes, because you made them already. And once you realize that you have that power, then you start thinking about how to do it, and then you stop making stupid mistakes.
Yes.
Because the biggest mistake is not knowing.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake you can do with your own power.
Oh, it reminds me. So we just spent the weekend in Paris on a conference called PAUA, P-A-U-A, which was super inspiring.
Incredible.
Bringing together the cutting edge of future technology, AI, Web3, all of that stuff, and the cutting edge of ancient technology, including some actual tribe elders and leaders and shamans from tribes around the world, including the Kogi and the Payanawa tribe. And I remember the leader of the Payanawa tribe saying, how could he judge the destruction that we do? Because he would act the same for the same lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know how this reality works, so he could never blame us because he has that knowledge, so he behaves differently. And I think he implied that it's kind of his duty to teach us this knowledge. And I think what we're doing here is in a very similar spirit.
Yes.
It's like there's this Bible quote, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." That's pretty much what's happening.
Yes, we don't know what we are capable of, and then we use our power very thoughtlessly, do very dumb things, and then we need to learn from them. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is exactly what we try to remember the future, remember what's really real, remember everything we forgot, because we knew there are still myths around and stories that when you hear them, you're like, wow, this feels so true. And the point is, because it is, we just forgot. We think, no, it's only a fairy tale. But why do they exist? Why did people tell these stories? Why did they survive for such a long time?
Mm-hmm.
There must be something to it. Okay, so the first one of the Spirit Council is the turtle. The next one, I actually will change the order of this. The next one is La Paresse. Where is she? Here. And La Paresse is a spirit that came to us. Do you remember what exactly was happening at the time? Why did she come to us? There was a special occasion?
Well, I remember the first time interacting with her was when I was traveling through some painful childhood memories. And suddenly I felt a presence that showed me how she viewed me. I think she did a similar thing.
I had the same experience where I was not. I was very suppressing my own power, and she came and showed me kind of how she looks at me, and it was incredible.
Very moving.
Yeah, very moving.
And very healing.
Very healing. Yes, she has. Oh, here we go. Yes, she has a very motherly energy, and we think other people call her Isis.
Yeah.
Yes, and she is with us for a few months now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yes. And La Paresse is very close to our heart, and she is also taking care of this project, and she is very important for holding the space and holding everything so that you can relax back and just be, while she takes care of everything and remembers things you don't want to forget, and all these things that make you me sometimes a bit itchy. She will take care of it. You can relax. Yes, La Paresse. And then we have Philip, and Philip is my brother in spirit. Yes, and he, I'm very connected to him, and we work together to explore the spirit realms and the material realms and see what we can do. Yes, we kind of bridge to the spirit world, our connection. So he is more, like all the other guides are more like patrons over the project, and the two of us are more like doing things and more like the actors through which the patrons can act. And the next one is the dragon. And the message of the dragon is about speaking your truth and by that also helping other people awaken to the truth. So he is very central to this whole project, because it's basically everything it's all about. That I have to speak what I feel is true, and I hope that people can benefit from that. And also sharing about your own transformation, so that other people can open up as well, and other people can also transform as well, because they see that, wow, you can do this, and I can do that as well.
I love how you just said you have to share what you feel is true.
Yeah.
That's so important, because that's one of the other kind of legacy malware memes in our culture, that truth is reached through thought.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's as wrong as it could be. Thought alone is not able to discern illusion from truth, because truth is relative.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling, however, in conjunction with thought, that's where the power comes from. Like thought that makes you feel good. Truth statements that are relatively true but also make you feel good, they are in touch with absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why truth is so transformative. It's not because thoughts really start turning in your head once someone says it, but no, it's like it's this all body tingling, like this embodied feeling of like you feel it's true. And I just also want to add, like, remember is such an amazing word if you really look at the etymology, because it's like remember. So you join, you rejoin with something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that feeling of feeling truth has a lot of resonance with that concept. Like
Yes.
you rejoin in reality, and that is just a joyful feeling. Like to be closer, come closer to reality, closer to God is how people often say it. It just feels amazing.
Yes.
That's why the truth sets you free,
Yes.
because you remember with all that is, basically.
Yes. Yeah, and this feeling of truth is also very important when you look at the visions for the future, because you can look at different visions for the future, and some of them feel better and some of them feel worse. And I think that your feeling of what feels good is also kind of the feeling of what the universe would like to happen.
Yeah. But
So
it resonates.
the most beautiful future is the one the universe desires the most, and the one that resonates with you the most.
And which is also the most, let's say, which has the least resistance once you see it.
Mm-hmm.
So people often think it's so unlikely that we will, transform this planet and kind of become an enlightened species. But if you really feel into it, the universe screams with every cell, like, I want this.
Yes.
So once we see it and we hold it, it is actually the most likely thing to happen.
Yes.
Because the universe wants it.
Yes.
And this
And
is
that's
so
part
important
of
to
the,
get.
Yeah, that's part of the power of these visions. When they really feel good, it means the power of the universe is behind you. So if you want to make it happen, it's the easiest thing to happen. Because all this manifestation, if you make it from your own brain, if you think, oh, I would like this kind of car, then it doesn't feel that whole if you think about cars and that kind of stuff. But then if you want to make it manifest, it will take longer, it will be more effortful, because it's not what the universe really desires. The universe doesn't want you to have the most fancy car. Maybe that's something that happens, but it's not like the goal of the universe to have you have an amazing car. But if you really feel some really, really profound goodness in a vision of the future, it means the universe is behind it. The universe is like, yes, if you do that, I will be with you. We will do it together. It will be so easy. You just have to hold the space for it to happen, and then we can make it happen. And then you need to do nearly nothing, because you just hold the space. You say, I want this. I want to meet a lot of very amazing people. And then a few months later, you get invited to this power meeting, and then you go there and you're like, wow, there they are. Yeah. I didn't have to do anything. Everything came.
Yeah. It's like my will and the will of the universe are not two.
Yes.
And the universe is not a statistic. It's
yes.
really important to
Yes,
get.
the universe is conscious.
It looks like that from the outside, and it looks like a good idea to navigate it through stochastic and probability. but that's the only tool you have when you separate it, when you separate yourself from it. And it's a great tool, but you should only use it to get back on track, because fundamentally what's happening is choice.
Yes. Yes, and the universe has dreams. And if you feel the dreams of the universe, then you are a very powerful dreamer. Yes, so the dragon. The next person in the room is, let's start from the bottom, the rattlesnake. And the rattlesnake is all about courage. And the rattlesnake is empowering you to make yourself vulnerable. And I think this is a very, very important skill that our society doesn't really value at all. But it's so important. Like in the recent, like on this weekend in Paris, I really learned that when you open up, when you truly show how you feel and what really moves you, this is not weakness. Like, this is what I thought before. I thought this is weak, I shouldn't do it, people can hurt you. But that's not what will happen. If you truly open up, they will all see you and they will all love you.
So statistically speaking, there is a probability, a non-zero probability, that you will be hurt when you make yourself vulnerable. But once you do it, once you open yourself up, you start to reconnect again with what's really going on, and that is choice. So it's like these two internally coherent stories that both exist at the same time, where like we get this framing of the I and the me, which people often call the true self and the ego, something like that. But there are these two levels in you. The I perceives on the basis of love and knows that making yourself vulnerable just means open up and connecting with a greater force, so you become infinitely more powerful and safe through that process. But the me, the ego, small self, only sees how the boundary, vanishes and how it basically dies. So for it, it's like very dangerous, very scary, and weak to open yourself up. Whereas what you're actually doing is joining some much greater force.
Yeah, you make a connection to other people possible that isn't possible if you don't open up.
Yes.
Like, and also you make it easier for them to open up as well, if they want that.
Yeah.
It's very transformative. If you do it, there's a lot of healing happening, not only for you, but also for the others. Also if they don't open up, but just seeing that the other person does it, and it is received well, and everybody is amazed and finds it beautiful. Yeah. It's just very transformative for everybody involved. Yeah. Very much healing happening. Yes. Yeah, that's the rattlesnake. The courage to show yourself. The next spirit on our council is the lizard. And the lizard teaches you to go the easy way. And it is a very, very interesting lesson, because you think, like, but life isn't easy. How should I go the easy way? And then you realize, once you realize your own power, this is also very connected to the turtle, that there is an easy way, and it's actually the best one. And then you realize every time you are making effort, you don't, not everything comes to you, but you have to do something you don't want, to get somewhere where you want to go. You're not going your way. You're going the wrong way, because at the core, existence is effortless. You just put your intentions, and then things will happen, and you don't have to do anything you don't want. If there's something you really want to do it. It's not about not doing anything. It's about doing what you love, doing what you find effortless. If you like to paint all day, do it. If you think it's very exhausting, don't do it. Just do what feels easy to you, what comes easy, and what makes you feel good. And if you follow that, To quote Iroh, follow your passion and life will reward you.
Exactly. We talked about this recently. So Charles Eisenstein, one of my favorite human beings, philosophers, it's too small of a term. He talked about how urgency is not a signal for you to speed up, which is so important to hear. Like, it's not a signal for you to go faster. It actually is just a signal that you're not. You need to recalibrate. You need to orient your compass, because you're going the wrong way. You're going exactly as fast as you can at the speed of choice. Everything else is an illusion. You cannot go faster or slower than the speed of choice, but you can recalibrate your choices. And kind of as a corollary of that statement, we talked about how overwhelm, which urgency and overwhelm are very closely related, but overwhelm is a kind of somatic pointer for you to consider. Ask the question whether you're trying to solve a mystery as if it were a puzzle. Puzzles can be solved with finite intelligence, but a mystery is kind of like an infinite puzzle, if you like. It never ends, and it can only be, engaged with, let's say, by the infinite intelligence. So, like, if you have a finite intelligence in your intellect, there needs to be, like, to that yang, there needs to be a yin, a canvas on which you paint that, which is the infinite intelligence. And this is what people refer to when they have these experiences and be like, there is this greater plan. God's ways are, I don't know the English saying for that, mysterious, something like that.
Yes.
Which is just, there is this larger thing going on, this infinite intelligence that permeates everything and coordinates everything. And you need to see that every time you're overwhelmed, you have a category error going on. You're trying to control things like a puzzle that are really a mystery, an infinite puzzle, like a never end. It's meant to never end. That's what the mystery is. It keeps on giving. So this is also very connected to take the easy way, because hard, like, if there's resistance, there probably is a category error going on.
Or you are manipulating yourself because you are afraid of something else. Like, for me, I noticed that I was afraid of my own power, and that's why I always, when I had an idea about an artwork, I made it so big and so fancy, and it had to have this and this and this, and it has to be huge. And then I was like, yeah, that sounds exhausting, I will not do it. And the underlying core was, I was afraid that it's going to be too good so that I cannot hold it, and I was afraid that what will happen if it shows that I am actually talented, like, better not do it, better not go there, So I was making, like, everything not easy, and convincing myself that this is how it has to be, so I didn't get anything done. So it was like something else was holding me back, and it was masking as this cannot be that easy.
You didn't fully step into the role of co-creator. You kind of had one foot in the victim mentality still, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we have the rattlesnake, we have the lizard, and then we have the dragonfly. And the dragonfly is about the fear of breaking free, because the dragonfly is a long time a little, I don't know the right name. It's something.
Larvae? Is that the word?
Yeah, something like that. It's underwater, and it's not a lot of dragonfly yet. And so the water here stands for emotions and, like, the emotional waters. And it's underwater, and then at some point it has to go up, get out of the water, and start being a dragonfly and fly around. And this is representing our fear of breaking free, because we can just accept our power and use it wisely, but we are very afraid to do that. If we wouldn't be afraid to break free, we would be enlightened by now. There would be not really anything happening on this planetary sphere, because we all would have ascended right away, because we would just not be afraid of it. But there's some part of us that doesn't want it, because he doesn't know what happens. You know, we've been in this water all the time and it's safe and nice. We've been surviving and now we should go up and fly around in the air. What is air even supposed to be? You know, we don't know what it is. We've been in the water the whole time. How should we trust this?
We only see what we lose. We cannot imagine what we gain.
Yes, because it's unimaginable. If you have lived your whole life in the water, how should you know what air is like? How should you know how amazing it will feel to fly? You know, you don't know. You've heard stories about it, but you don't know if it's really right because you haven't experienced it for yourself. Yeah, so this is what the dragonfly teaches you, is to love this fear. Because without this fear, there would be here no story to tell. Earth would be a horribly, horribly boring planet. Everybody would be enlightened and we would just sing around the campfire the whole time. Nothing interesting would happen.
Yeah, I love that. I love that twist, kind of, because when you first spoke, you could interpret what you said, your energy, as like, you know, just let go of that fear, then you're enlightened. And this is a good thing. But now it's like celebrating this fear, because can you read out loud what you literally wrote on the card, because I find it so beautiful.
Yeah, I wrote, I love the fear of breaking free. Without it, I could not tell this story. Yeah.
That just gives me goosebumps. I love that so much.
That's nice, thank you.
It's like, yeah, fall in love with what holds you back. Because you need, you know, every yin needs a yang to know itself. So if you want to reach God, if you want to know how it feels like to become enlightened, to become one with God, you also need to know how it feels like to feel resistance in that movement. Otherwise you couldn't know that, you couldn't experience that. And isn't that the most delicious feeling there is? So yeah, let us all be thankful for what's holding us back.
Yes.
Like, without it we couldn't tell this story.
Yeah, and it also fits with the idea that whenever there's a fear, love is always bigger than fear. So if you meet that fear with love, then the fear can ease out and also be love. But if you meet the fear with fear, if you meet the resistance with resistance, you only resist more. It's like an infinite loop that will build up into infinity and you will be so stuck. But if you meet it with love, if you are like, oh, I'm afraid of this, and you're like, oh, that's good to know, then I will take care of myself and I will like honor this, you know. I will see this and be like, wow, you're afraid, that's okay. Like if you act towards yourself as like a mother would, you know, you wouldn't tell your child, well, stop crying and go ascend.
No, like,
you would tell your child, it's okay, you have time, you can relax. We will make us here a very nice time and we will just see what happens. And if you are like that to your fear, then the fear can relax and it can say, well, I don't think I'm in danger because I'm cared for. And if I right now don't want to be enlightened, I don't have to.
Yeah.
And then you can decide for yourself that you want it. But before, if you resist the resistance, you get so stuck that you don't really have the choice anymore.
Yeah, it's like, I feel fear right now. What a gift. The universe gives me another opportunity to know what it's like to overcome that fear. View it as an invitation and love your fear. And recognize that fear can only exist if there is love that is kind of holding the space. We often talk about the canvas and the color. Like there's this canvas. The yin is the canvas for the yang, the color, to be painted upon. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to recognize that this cannot not be the case. If you are in fear, well, you have to be held in love to even have that experience.
Yes.
So don't try to create anything. Try to shift your perception.
Yes. And also, just accept that it's okay to be afraid. And it will go away if it wants to. And if it doesn't, it's also fine. Yeah, that's the story of the dragonfly. Very nice. Next person in our circle is the butterfly. And the butterfly is a creature that contemplates death. And the purpose for it is to show you that death is only rebirth. there's no real death. And it invites you to contemplate this and also see the death in everything. Like in the dream arc, they write something like, can you see how you die when you withhold a truth? And can you see how you die when you tell a truth? And see how these two types of dying are different. One is releasing and the other one is painful. And then see this kind of thing happen everywhere in your life. Because it's everywhere. Because death is only transformation and everything is transforming the whole time. Everything is changing and in flux. And
there's like a death that, like joy and pain are like these two types of death, right?
Yes.
One is dying to yourself, which leads to joy because you rejoice in all that is. And only then a concept dies, whereas the dying in pain is, isolating yourself most fully from life, and thus like cutting off the path of nurture that kind of keep you vibrant.
Yeah, and the butterfly is also the guardian of the new moon. And I really like the picture. Just imagine you are in complete darkness, and in front of you is a butterfly, but he hasn't spread his wings yet, so he's like facing you directly head on, so you don't see anything. Like sometimes you are in nature and you don't see it, and then suddenly it starts to fly, and you're like, wow, there was a butterfly, I didn't see it, because when you look at it from the front, it is invisible.
Yeah.
And just imagine if you are in darkness, know that there could be butterflies all around you, and soon they will start to show you their wings, and they will show you that every end is a beginning, and there is no death. Whenever there is space whenever something gives space, there will something new will come and emerge in that space. There is no emptiness, there's only fullness. So it cannot be empty. It can only transform into something different. And this is like very, very important to know, that whenever there's darkness, light will come.
And I think here is also a good point to talk about the 3 different levels of this project that you told me about, because the butterfly is very transformative to relate to on, let's say, the individual unique self basis. But our species as a whole, the larger unique self of humanity, is going through this caterpillar to butterfly experience right now. So this allegory or metaphor of us not being afraid in the darkness, and kind of knowing that the darkness is only potential for us to discover that there was the butterfly all along, kind of metaphorically speaking, is also very relevant there. And help me here, I don't fully remember, but I think you told me that there's the personal transformation, then there's the healing of each person, the healing of our species, and the healing of Gaia. Did I remember that correctly?
Yes. The idea is that it connects to the opening up that we talked before, that we talked about earlier. That if you open up, if you show your transformation, you invite everybody to do the same, to transform and to share the transformation.
Yeah.
And thus your personal transformation always aids the collective transformation. And the collective transformation helps us to heal the earth, because the earth is in imbalance, as we might have noticed. And I think that what we really need is to remember the future, to heal the earth.
Yeah.
And so we need a collective transformation, and everybody can do their part by transforming themselves and by not making a secret out of it. I think it also aids if you don't tell anybody about it, because everything is connected.
You contribute to the field, definitely.
Yes, but I think it's very much more powerful if you show openly how you transform, and if you just invite everybody to join, because you can, when you transform, it's always something beautiful happening.
Yeah. And also, like, I want to point out how grateful we should be for the language and all the treasures buried in the language, because so we just talked about a moment ago about remember, which just means to rejoin with the whole or something like that.
Yeah.
And we also talk about healing now, but the etymology of healing is to become whole.
Yes, to become one with everything.
So if you make yourself vulnerable, means you let down your guards, that which separated you from whatever, from other self, which means vulnerability, like opening up, is intrinsically, inherently an act of healing, of becoming whole. So this all kind of connects together, and I think what kind of crystallizes is that all the pieces that you're holding, they are all like holographically interconnected.
Yes.
And kind of mirror each other.
Yes. Yes. And I also wanted to add that the butterfly is also very connected to dreams, and like when a vision comes to you, and like how easily you can make it happen, you know, because it shows that like in the new moon, like I find the new moon is very, very important for that card, because or for that spirit, because it's like the moon is gone, you know, like the first time you would have seen it, you would be like, oh my, the moon is gone. First there was a moon and then it got smaller and smaller, now it's gone, and you're like, oh my, will he ever come back? And he will come back.
Yeah, every
you know,
time.
every time, every month, he just keeps on coming back. And that's like kind of how easy it is to actually manifest what the universe wants. You know, I think that this ease of the moon coming back every time, this is very connected to the butterfly's story of, if you really have your dream, it's just as easy to make it manifest as the moon, who will manifest herself again and again. Yeah. All right. And next to the butterfly sits the frog.
I love the frog.
The
My
frog.
favorite.
Yes, he's a stoner frog because he's very relaxed. And he is all about having fun and enjoying and seeing the joy in everything. And just to just also take the time to have a good laugh and to really enjoy being here. That's what the frog is about.
And through him, you dropped the biggest truth bomb on me I have experienced in a while. Wisdom bomb, which was basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but something like, don't you see that if there weren't infinitely more joy than pain or suffering in creation would have ceased to exist a long time ago. And I was just like, oh my god, like, it makes so much sense. Like, metaphysically speaking, joy and pain are yin and yang, and one way to think about this, to kind of the way when we say love is stronger than fear, there's this kind of mathematical way of thinking it, like the yin is like the volume, and the yang is the surface, the emptiness and form, quality and form, whatever you want to call it. So the yang is not just less than the yin, it's infinitely less. You know, it's a different category even. And joy and pain have that relationship. So there's a lot of suffering and a lot of pain in this reality, but like, it's obvious that it couldn't exist if there wouldn't be infinitely more joy. This is not a cruel joke. It's actually a beautiful symphony that we are honored to take part in.
Yes.
And that's what the frog.
Yeah, and he invites us to shift our attention, to look at all the beauty around you.
Yeah.
And to just see, like, wow, there's a little butterfly flying right there. Isn't it amazing? You know? And not only look at what's going wrong, but look at what, like, everything is going right. It's so much, but we keep forgetting. So yeah, the frog invites us to take a big joint and remember and relax. Finally relax. Yes. And next to the frog, we have the cow. And the cow is has a very motherly attitude. The cow is someone, she really likes to count her blessings the whole day. And she just won't finish because, like the frog, she sees everything as a gift. But then at some point she has to stop because she also wants to give something to show her gratitude, and that is kindness. And she teaches us to really be kind to each other and to cherish what we have and to give in that spirit of gratitude to everybody around us and to be kind. That's so important.
And the first time we came to this place where we are right now to kind of scout the area, there was this huge cow that had exactly the same horns.
Yes, it was just, we were still sitting in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I drew it. I drew it from the picture I took. We were sitting in the car, and then there was a big cow coming towards us. Maybe I show a picture. And was just walking straight to our car, looking inside, and then going away into the woods. And we were like, all right.
Yeah. Transmitting some teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was beautiful. Very beautiful cow.
Majestic.
And the next guardian in our round is the raven. And the raven is all about transmutation. Here's like a little text from the dream arc that I would like to read to you. And so the raven's message to you, if you feel connected to him, is: you have been given some profound collective task to fulfill. Be one of the first to remember the light hidden in the blackness. The blackness is not you. It is a womb pregnant with vast light. Forgive others and yourself for all. Be an ordinary human being. Your task is to remember your humanity, to laugh, to dance, to celebrate, to be humble again. Open then to the new simplicity and let the intensity gently subside as the new dawn softens all the hard edges of your karma and the light of your soul shines once again upon the world. Yeah, I think he's also very connected to the butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
In the way that, you are the first one to remember the light. Remember the future. Remember the future is real and a being, and you can interact with her.
I have to think, I'm remembered. Remembered is that the right word? I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember on that weekend that we just had now, that power gathering, there was also, we took part in a workshop where some circling technique, where the whole group kind of, was merging one to one, and through the group we spoke about that we felt like in a womb, and it felt really much like rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this Kogi tribe speaking at the conference, and what's so unique about them is actually that they're shamans, or they're spiritual masters, something like that. They're called mamos, and they spend 10 to 18 years, the first 10 to 18 years of their life in darkness, in a dark cave. So they don't use any plant medicine, as far as we know. They just use darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And this, and I remember in the circle that the first person through whom this was spoken was like talking about the dark technology, which made us laugh really hard. But it was like, only in hindsight I could connect the dots, that it was like the womb, and it was not an evil technology. It was a dark technology, and the womb is kind of like a dark technology, and there's like this almost spiritual rebirth that can happen in darkness, because they say the mamos learns to navigate the spirit world before he learns to navigate the material world.
Yeah.
So this kind of like the darkness as like a womb that is kind of this motherly energy holding you.
Yeah, the blackness is a womb pregnant with vast light.
Yeah.
That.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Kogi know that.
The Kogi know.
Yeah.
They know a lot.
You could feel it. The mammals had an energy
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
insane.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is the raven. And then the last one in our circle is the peacock. And the peacock, as you might know, is very glamorous. Very glamorous. And he is all about being seen and about showing your beauty, but showing it in an authentic way. And I think that's a very big challenge in our times, because you either get into one extreme, which is not showing your beauty at all and suppressing it within you, and maybe only projecting it outwards to some celebrities or something.
Mm-hmm.
On the other extreme, which is being a bit arrogant and too much into oneself and thinking that it makes you special to be beautiful. But the peacock teaches you to, by his beauty, he awakens you to your beauty. And I think this is the authentic way you can express your beautiful soul, is by expressing it in order to show others, like a mirror, this is you too. You know, you think you're not beautiful and you think I'm beautiful, you're wrong. This is you as well. And it's everybody. And
it's the same kind of potential indwelling in all of us.
Yes.
And then it's an invitation to express that potential in your unique way. But it's the same potential. And by the way, it's infinite.
And in that teaching of beauty, the peacock invites you to stop using the way of suffering for learning and start using the way of love. So this is what this path is all about. So here are thorns and it's tough, and then you go towards the light on the path, which is easy, because love is a teacher as well. You don't need to suffer to learn, you know. I think you have to in the beginning, but at some point you can go and change courses and take different teachers. And this is an invitation of the peacock to go towards the beauty and to see you can learn from love, you can learn from gratitude, you can learn from joy, you can learn from gentleness, you know.
The truth is magnetic, in a sense. Like, you don't need to, you know, try every route and do the least painful. Just open yourself up and let yourself be drawn to it. And if I may, like, there's this thing that we talk about, this framing, that actually we kind of derived that by thinking about academia, how we have this myth in our culture of that we are standing on the shoulders of giants, and it comes together with the myth of progress. That we kind of, like the image, the mythological image underneath that is kind of, so we come from blackness, from nothingness, now in that sense of, you know, not in the boom black sense, but more in like the void, there's nothing. And somehow the Big Bang happened. That was weird. But then there's like something.
Let's not talk about how this works.
There's like something painted on the canvas of nothingness.
Yeah.
So everything consists of parts or particles. You know, the Western mind works like this. And in between these parts, there's just empty space. There's just nothing in there. So what do you do in such a world? Well, you try to kind of work together against the catastrophe of this accident that we kind of find ourselves in the middle, to then climb up very hard. There's like this huge pull, this insanely strong gravity pulling you towards nothingness, and we have to stand on the shoulders of giants and build this huge monument. But guess what? If you do that, you are super rigid. You can never move, because otherwise you would have to climb down all these shoulders to go somewhere else. And there's this shift that can happen, and I think that's really embodied in the peacock, where it's like, where you recognize that there is actually another way, where you recognize actually up here the fullness is really the source of it all, and there is not gravity pulling you down. That only happens if you're afraid that it will happen. If you let go, you will just be pulled towards the light, because that's where we all come from. We don't come from emptiness. That's a mistranslation of the term. It actually is a fullness. It's so full that nothing else has space. So it's like the the presence of form, if you think about the Buddhist framing of emptiness and form, the presence of form is actually the absence of all other forms. Like the infinite potential is the source of everything. So that stone over here is like this experience is just the absence of all other possible experiences. So we don't fall into the void, we actually merge with the whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this German musician, Captain Peng, and he says you realize that the falling turns into floating if you stop grabbing onto things and trying to hold yourself from falling.
Yeah.
You know, the falling is only what you think it is if you are super stressed out and trying to grab everything you can to not fall. And if you just let it go, you realize, wait, I'm not falling. I'm just like flowing around. And then you're like, how unnecessary.
Like technically speaking, we learned that in university, in our physics course, like the moon falls around the earth. The earth falls around the sun. This literally is the case. Like this is a way of saying it. But we're not like, oh no, we're crashing. No, it's like it's meant to be. Float.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
It's not a catastrophe to keep falling.
So you were just talking about the peacock as a magic mirror.
Yes.
So I thought this is like a nice segue to...
Yeah, yes, very much. So, very interesting. So now we finished the guardians of the project. These are all our guardians. And since some goats were annoyed that they are not part of it, for like every other kind of spirit is invited to be to take part in the project. It's just that this is the council that is like the main spirits that take care of this project. But we will also have some people, some spirits from outside to give us input.
These are the primary custodians.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and a very important concept for me is the magic mirror. And it has a lot of different meanings. So one, which is maybe the most fundamental, is that I think that reality is basically a mirror, in the way that if you find your true power, you know, you make everything, and the world reflects back to you what you think or what your idea about the world is. So if you think that life is hard, life will be incredibly hard. If you think, I go the easy way and it works, you go the easy way and it works.
Yeah.
If you think you are protected, you don't need to worry, you are protected. If you think you are in big trouble, you will get in big trouble.
It will give you any experience that you ask without any judgment.
Yes.
Because it knows it's the right experience, because you want it at this moment. So if you think the world is catastrophic, you actually tell the universe you want that experience right now.
Yeah.
Or the universe wants that experience right now. So it will gladly mirror that to you.
Yes, exactly right. And I think this is very important in the whole endeavor of healing. Because we have healers, and that's amazing. But I think the person who knows best what kind of healing you need is yourself. And by the universe being your mirror, you can just learn how to communicate with the universe again, so the universe can give you hints. For example, with the animal spirits, if you are drawn to a special animal, or if you keep meeting, like we were meeting this cow, and she was very like walking towards us directly, and once we realized she came for us, she went away. Like these kinds of interactions
that stick out.
That stick out to you, and you're like, okay, what a weird cow. Then there's maybe something that this animal represents that you should learn about. And I think it's incredibly helpful if you learn to decode what the universe tells you, to feel within what this means for you now. So this is kind of how the magic mirror like one way to interpret this idea and to use it is to learn to communicate with the universe again, to receive healing instructions. What is the thing I should pay attention to? What is the most important thing I need to heal? If you ask this question to the universe will answer, because, as we said, it gives you the kind of experience you want. And if you just ask aloud or ask in your mind, you will get an answer. Also, in any question you have about your life, like, should I take this job? Ask the universe. Say to the universe, give me a sign today, please, if I should take this job or not. You're not sure, you know. Something will happen, and you will feel what you really want.
And you just said, like, learn to communicate with the universe again.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one direction of the communication is actually not the issue. The universe understands you because it's infinite intelligence.
Yeah, but you need to listen.
You need to listen. That's what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because
and also you need to ask.
Yeah. You need to know that you can ask and do it, and you need to learn the language of the universe. And this kind of goes back to what the Kogi talked about. They are in general, indigenous people. They know that there is so much more. Language is so much greater than just verbal language.
Mm-hmm.
There was this really transformative book that I read 1 or 2 years ago called Sand Talk, and it kind of talks about how one theme of the book was sand talk, that indigenous people draw symbols in the sand which represent things. But we kind of took that kind of framing of blah 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 talk
Mm-hmm.
and took it further for us and said, like, well, the clouds can also tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
We call that sky talk.
Yes.
Then we have also, what else is there?
Tree talk.
Tree talk.
When trees give you messages.
Yes. So the universe talks. You have to learn to listen again, and you have to learn the language it
Mm-hmm.
speaks. And these Kogi we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
they look at the rivers and see what the rivers tell them.
Mhm.
Everything, pattern is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it will, again, it's like a magic mirror. If you really have faith that the intelligence wants to communicate with you, you will be able to learn the language.
Yeah.
But only if you have faith that it's possible.
Mm-hmm. And the good news is everything you need is inside you. You can use mythological ideas or things like the Dream Arc, where they explain the animal spirits. You can use these kinds of things to reconnect to your intuition, but the core of it is already there. If you truly open yourself up to your feelings, you know it.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody to tell you a story about some animal. You will feel what the animal wants to tell you.
Yeah.
So I really invite you, the next time you find a very interesting tree or animal or stone or anything that speaks to you, that you are like, wow, this is somehow feels important, this kind of being, then just sit with it and just listen. And if you have questions, ask. Ask, what am I supposed to do here? I don't understand it. And then just sit and relax, go into a meditative state, and just feel what comes up. And you will be surprised what can happen. You will be surprised about all the plants, what great humor they have, you know, how much wisdom they have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere around you. It's everywhere within you. You don't need to do, like, to go anywhere. It's all there. You just need to remember that you can do this. You need to remember that you have this capacity. You're a human being. Of course you can talk to everything.
And just for those of you that kind of struggle with getting over the skeptical mind,
Mm-hmm.
just a few words that really, I think, will be helpful here. So the Kogi were at the conference, and they spoke about how they interact with the world and stuff like this. And it was also AI was also a big topic on that
Mm-hmm.
conference. So it was mentioned in a side sentence that some people are working on AI learning the language of whales and dolphins, like using whale sounds and translating it into human language so that we can again communicate with nature. I think that's a beautiful thing, by the way. But the Kogi kind of made clear that this is only training wheels, because they can already do that.
Yes, you
They don't
can
need
already
any-
do that.
they don't-
Everybody
yeah,
can.
They don't need AI for that. They say like we communicate with the animals all the time, and I think they mean that quite literally.
Yes.
But it's obviously they don't speak English or Spanish or whatever. They speak the language, but these indigenous people
Speak
can tune into that,
universe.
and they are the same people
Mhm.
and you and me. We are we have all the same hardware and software, however you want to say it. Like the same potential lives in us, and yeah, and just so maybe one thing that also is very important if the skeptical mind is kind of in the way right now. They told a story that the Mamos, the spiritual teacher of them, or expert kind of, he visited Paris once before, that's where the conference was, to talk to an astronomer. And the astronomer showed him very proudly kind of like our cutting edge of, the new pictures that the Hubble Space Telescope brought in, and was explaining to the Mamos in, a way of teaching him about all these concepts. This is like a galaxy, and here are the stars and stuff like that. And probably, obviously, expecting him to not really get it and trying to explain it to this underdeveloped person. And the Mamos told him, well, no, these are actually groups of stars. They're just like so close together that they look like a single star. And there's another star behind this one that you can't see from this perspective. And
Yeah, he said that you can't see from Earth.
from Earth, yeah. And then the astronomer was just totally baffled. It was like, yes, that's correct. How do you know? And he said, that's just part of our knowledge.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, you can travel in spirit anywhere
and
they
this
want.
is when we say ancient technology and future technology. We don't mean like hippie technology that's not really technology, Like
Mhm.
ancient technology is technology. They are able to do things that we are not able to do.
Mhm.
They travel there in spirit.
Mhm.
It's actually a thing.
Yes.
They had that information much longer than we had without building any mechanical device.
Yes.
So, and these are the same people as you and me.
Yes.
We all have that capacity.
Yeah, they can just kind of resolve the boundary around them, become one with everything, and then travel around. Because if you are one with everything, why shouldn't you be able to do that? Right? If you truly tune into that, you can do it.
It's gonna be an exciting time for our civilization that has been isolated from these dimensions for so long, to rediscover them, to remember them. Because for them it's normal, and we have to learn so much from them. In so many ways, they are so much more advanced than we are,
Yes.
and we are rediscovering that as we're speaking.
Yes.
So take it
Yeah,
as
this
an
is
invitation.
an invitation. Yes, please try. Please, if you start to communicate with nature,
There
miracles
is,
will unfold.
there
Miracles
is-
will unfold.
yeah.
It's crazy.
there is a there. That's really important. There is a there. You can reach it.
Yeah. Yes, and another part of the idea of the magic mirror is that I think I want to build a magic mirror in a way that it shows everybody their true potential. Because I think if everybody would get in touch with their vision, the world would be a better place. Because then they can realize that vision and do what they are here to do. So that's also part of the idea of the magic mirror, is that I think we all need a magic mirror to see our true potential, and then we can live it out because we saw it in the magic mirror. So I want to build some kind of artwork that will make you remember yourself, because this is also part of remember the future. First you remember yourself, and then you can remember the collective future, but you first need to join the future. So you are part of it, and then you can help the other people join as well. The magic mirror.
There was one more angle on the magic mirror in relation to hyperstition and the dream
Oh
song.
yes, right.
Do you want me
Important.
to kind of
Yes,
lay that
please.
out? So this is like very liminal, like very much the frontier. It's very new, this story that just came in, but I just lay it out and invite everyone to play with that framing. So we talked about hyperstition in the beginning. And basically, in a nutshell, hyperstition is the recognition that perception is creation. And this is powerful. But on the other hand, it shows that you are not separate from potentiality. So your perception is an invitation for potentiality to manifest as that actuality that you perceive it to be. But at the same time, also the future kind of influences your perception. It's at once what you want the future to be and what the future wants to be through you.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like these two ways. Perception is creation, but also creation makes perception.
Yes.
Creation creates perception, something like that. One we have termed hyperstition, which is like everything is yin and yang, and there's more formalism behind that, but I think we can leave it at that. Everything is yin and yang, so if there is such a thing in a reality that perception is creation, then, and this is like the yang in this case, then there needs to be a yin accompanying this. And this yin is that, creation creates perception,
Mm-hmm.
influences perception,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So we have the yang of hyperstition, and then the yin of, in this case that we also said, it's like the magic mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
and then that's like the deeper insight, the relationship between yin and yang, the dance between the two. I think some people refer to the Tao as that, like the deeper relationship between yin and yang. That is actually more fundamental, and this is what we refer to as the dream song. So the totality, this deeper thing that both that expresses itself both as perception is creation and creation makes perception. This deeper thing is what we call a dream song, which is kind of like this where causality breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be like, well, does it become that because I want it to, or do I want it because it wants to? You know, like this is the finite intellect cannot relate to it like that. But so there's a mystery right here,
Mm-hmm.
and this mystery is just mystery and choice go together. Like it's just, why is it like that? Well, because someone somewhere, or God, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
chose it to be like that. And this phenomena of the dream song is also really central to kind of the project. Am I right?
Yes, very. And in this story, part of it is also that you see, it's not only that the whole experience of your outside world is a mirror of your inside world, but also in every part of it, it's always that the energy you put towards it is the energy you will get back. And I think that humans have the ability to kind of tweak it sometimes a bit. Like if it resonates more in this direction, they can tweak it a bit up, this part of it. But I don't think you can really create something that wasn't there.
Mhm.
So if you interact with somebody or something that really does something you don't want, then this energy is coming from you. You give it something that you really don't want to actually give to it, and then you get that back.
Yeah.
So that's also part of this idea that every part of reality is a mirror for yourself,
Mhm.
for your own energy.
Mhm.
So if you, for example, drink a coffee, and you are very, like, the energy you give into the coffee while making it is very loving and very good, then the coffee will have a probably very nice effect on you. If you give a very stressed energy into it, it might give the same stress energy back, and you might be overwhelmed from the caffeine, you know. So, like, not only people, but everything you interact with will give you back what you give it.
Yeah.
So this is also a practice of being mindful about that. Like, if anything bothers you, think about what you gave towards it. What kind of thoughts did you give to this subject before it hurt you or
Mhm.
bothered you in any way?
Mhm. Yeah, and just the positive side of that is like the dream song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just to, I just thought about like a nice way of putting it, which is like, so hyperstition is kind of what happens when you fall in love with a story.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I love that story so much, I perceive reality through that lens now. And the magic mirror is kind of like when a story falls in love with you, you know, like it falls in love with you kind of telling it. and it kind of corresponds to like the law of attraction from Byron Katie that we talk about, like this manifestation stuff where you attract your reality. And then Eckhart Tolle talks about surrender, which is like this non-doership. And it corresponds to that thing, like first you fall in love with something and want to attract it, and then you recognize, well, when you fall in love with something, it already fell in love with you. So you can just surrender, because as much as you manifest it, attract it to yourself, it attracts you to it as well. And kind of this dance of like this pure eros, you attract it, it attracts you. This is kind of like where the dream song lives. So a dream song is just a love story with a story. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, quite literally a love story. Story you love. Yes. And the most powerful dreams are the ones that we share. That's also a big part of the project, is that I want to invite you to share your dreams. Because when you have a dream and you tell it to other people and it inspires them as well, then you come together to conspire, which just means to conspire, to breathe together. So you essentially become one in this wanting of living this story. And then you can manifest it together. And if you all bundle your energy together, you are unstoppable. Like already one of you is unstoppable. But just imagine the kind of power that comes together when everybody gives what they are here to give to serve a story that inspires all of them. Yeah. So I want to invite you to share your dreams. It's also what I want to do in this art project, to share my dreams. What inspires me. What kind of stories I find just beautiful. And I'm just like, more people should know about this.
And I mean, what is the first thing you do when you remember something very beautiful? You tell it to the people that are involved in that memory, right? You phone someone, if someone is nearby, you tell them, oh, do you remember this? This was so beautiful. There is this inherent urge for communion, for communication, to share that. And that's not because it's not because you want that, it's because the story wants that. And you want to serve the story. It just feels good to let it flow where it wants to. So what do you do if you remember a very beautiful future? If you encounter a vision, a very beautiful memory of the future, you share it with all the people involved.
Yes.
Which you might yet need to meet, but that will happen if you share the vision. It will inspire the people that are meant to be inspired by it.
Yes. And they will come to you.
It's actually quite simple.
It's actually quite simple. Yes. Yes. I think the next thing that I would like to talk about is the symbol. This is a very important symbol in our life. Maybe you give a frame for it, because it's like, yes.
Yeah,
you are very good at this.
I use it a lot. So we will put it on screen so you can see it better, but it's basically obviously inspired by the yin yang symbol. Just to clearly say that, like, one of these dots in this case is
this is a square.
Yeah, is a square. Yeah. Like not a dot, it's a square.
Yeah.
So here's a square and here is a circle, which corresponds to the masculine and the feminine principle. So like the finite and the infinite, that kind of maps to it. You have like the right angles for the square, and then the circle, basically infinite amount of edges. That's a way to think about it. Transcendent by nature. But this symbol, maybe to give like a bit of a background here. So the yin yang of Taoism has been around forever, and basically so many wisdom traditions talk about reality being gendered, in the sense of like there's this masculine and this feminine archetype, and how to know something, you need to know its opposite. The process of knowing is inherently a relative one. What is light? Well, it's the absence of darkness. What is darkness? The absence of light.
Yes, but where does darkness begin and light start? Like,
It's one.
yes, you don't have one place where you're like, now it's not dark anymore, now it's light. No, it's like a soft going from here to there. There's not really, there's no boundary between them. They are
the
just
essence of
one thing.
That's the essence of non-duality.
Yeah.
Not two. But, so, there's a story that we like to tell about kind of creation, how it began, before even time began, which is like, God is basically infinite potential. God is at once like unity and infinity. These concepts go together. Like, for something to be infinite, it needs to be unity. Because if anything would be, if there would be two, then one of the things would not be infinite because it wouldn't include the other thing. So it needs to, unity and infinity go together. But God wants to know what it's like to be one and infinite. Well, to know that, he needs to have some mirror, some magic mirror, literally, to experience what it's like. So to know that, like, God is love, but in order to know what that means, he needs to know what it means to, what the absence of love is, which is fear. And basically, the whole of creation works like this. Everything knowable is knowable through its absence. So, yin and yang of Taoism, then I forgot the name of the book, the Kabbalion, something like that. The Marcus
I don't know
Hibiscus.
which one you want.
Hermetic wisdom, this kind of, the 7 Hermetic principles. I'm butchering this totally at the moment, but one of these principles is also reality is gendered. Everything is male and female. No, masculine and feminine. That's an important distinction.
Yeah, it's an energy. It's not
male and female correspond to biological sex. Masculine and feminine are like archetypal energies. That's a very important confusion going on in our culture right now.
Yes.
Everyone, man and woman, has both energies.
Yes, and you need to find the harmony inside.
Exactly. So, this wisdom has been around for a while, but in the 90s, because actually we're still evolving and interesting things are also happening in our time, in the 90s, an individual called Forrest Landry basically had this huge download of a body of knowledge, a metaphysical formal system or framework. It's hard to describe it, to find words to describe it, called the immanent metaphysics, which basically discovers that behind the yin and yang of Taoism, there's hidden in plain sight is something like a formal system or like a geometry that's based on axioms, 3 axioms to be explicit, and he can do crazy stuff with that. Like it's a formal system akin to mathematics with its rigor. I'm saying all of this because one of the things that he does in these axioms is saying, so he gives different names to yin and yang, but I won't introduce them. They're confusing to me. But so basically, if there's yin and yang, then the relationship between yin and yang is also there, and this is actually more fundamental than both yin and yang. So if there is light and darkness, then there is contrast, and contrast is more fundamental than light and darkness. So then basically to explicate that, we kind of came up with this symbol, which takes the yin and yang that has this kind of duality feeling to it with like 2 things, and explicitly introduces 3 things. So like the edge between the yin and yang, this curve in the middle, this wave, that is the immanent modality. That's what he called it. That's the relationship between yin and yang. And then the square is the masculine, the yang, and the circle is the feminine, the yin. So
yes, and this is a very, very important framing for a lot of things, and you will see it pop up in all kinds of art, because this is like the basis of our philosophy.
Yes.
Basically.
The what makes it so important is twofold, just to finish that quickly.
Yes.
One is it gives you a much more rigorous framing to hold and embody what Taoism taught for millennia, which is the masculine needs to be in service to the feminine. So this is like the essence of right relationship. right relationship is when you find the yin and yang behind everything, like all the complexity you see here. Behind all of it, there's yin and yang in different expressions. If you identify that, then you can just be like, okay, this is the masculine archetype. This is the feminine archetype. This is darkness, this is light.
Mm-hmm.
So darkness needs to be in service to light.
Yes.
The cold needs to be in service to the warm,
Mm-hmm.
etc. You can do that across the
Yeah,
board.
just like the fear of breaking free is in service to creation
Exactly.
by giving us this experience.
Fear and service to love.
Yes.
And so basically, with this, it's relative to what your path is that you have chosen. If you've chosen the path of what we call like the path of love and vision, like if you want to create a more beautiful world, there's an absolutely right answer and a wrong answer relative to that, to your choice. If we want to create a more beautiful world, you need to go enter a right relationship, which means the masculine and service to the feminine.
Yeah, in every aspect of your life.
And I think one of the most important things here relative to our current culture is that this translates to the rational and service to the trans-rational.
Mm-hmm.
And in case some of you are struggling with kind of the more flowy way that we've been talking about these spirits and all of this stuff, like I can relate to that. I still have that part of me.
Mm-hmm.
That it needs this rational, everything is a puzzle thing. We are doing this very consciously. Like we're very aware of that there are these two things going on. There's the rational and there's the trans-rational, which kind of transcends rationality.
The part of you that can speak to trees and receive answers.
There's the puzzle and there's the mystery.
Yes.
The immanent metaphysics is so unbelievably transformative on a cultural level because it works like an interface between the rational and the trans-rational. They can talk to each other with that framework, and implicitly you could see that playing out in this conversation. And I think the value of that body of work is actually like if everything goes well, if we are successful at creating a more beautiful world.
That's not a question.
Huh? Okay. Relative to the certainty that we will create a more beautiful world, this thing will become very widespread. Like right now, everyone knows mathematics. There was a time where mathematics was not a thing. Some weird dude, Pythagoras or so, came up with it, created this thing out of nothing. No one knew what it was, and now we learn it in school. This is one of these moments. We're going through that moment right now.
But we learn a very unsacred form in school.
We do.
That has to be said.
Yes.
I think in the beginning, mathematics was a very spiritual endeavor.
Yeah.
And then we made something different out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But a little note on this thing is that there are two kinds of relationships, like the right relationship and the wrong relationship. It's not wrong inherently, it's just we call it the upward spiral and the downward spiral.
One creates potential.
Yes.
The other consumes potential.
Exactly.
Which goes together with beauty and lack of beauty.
Yes. Like if you have, do you know an example that we can use?
Yeah, let's use the, we can do the one with the beach, or we can do the man-machine nature thing. I think the man-machine nature thing is very, very nice.
Then do it.
So
I don't know what exactly you mean.
So you can, one of these yin-yang relationships in our reality is that of man, machine, and nature. So nature is the canvas is yin, and machine is the yang.
Yeah, the thing we paint on the canvas. But without nature, we cannot build a machine, because where does our material come from?
Yeah. So like the ancient Greeks, as we learned this weekend, call it physis and techne, which is like there's just what there is, but out of nature, out of physis, man emerges. And we suddenly have the capacity to create from thought, from finite ideas, to instantiate it in reality. And that is what machine is, or techne. So man is kind of like the immanent relationship between nature and machine. Nature gives rise to man, man gives rise to machine. So relative to our choice that we want to create potential, it's very obvious how the right relationship looks, right? Because if man uses machine to extract from nature, we debase our own substrate.
Yes, that's basically what's happening on the planet right now.
Yes,
We keep on destroying nature, and then we wonder how we're going to survive.
exactly.
Because, yeah, we destroy the very thing that the whole machine building thing is based upon. We are like building a house on sand. And then we take away the sand, and then we're like, whoa, this is not stable at all. This is a
Exactly.
downward spiral.
So it's clear that we need to use machine to serve nature. So nature serves us, so we serve machine, so machine serves nature. This is the
Yes.
right relationship to create an upward spiral.
Yeah, and just imagine what would happen if we would live in that way. If we would have machines to heal nature.
Yeah.
If we would use technology to solve the problems we created, firstly, and then to nourish the planet even more and make this world way more abundant than it could ever be without us.
Yeah.
Because this is what we are here for. This is what we're here to do. We are potential.
We're the custodial species.
Yes,
This
we are
planet.
supposed to take care of this place.
Yeah.
And if we really have very, very powerful capacities, and if we use them to nourish,
Yeah.
no words for that.
And so we kind of to get back to the dream song,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope that the wind is not too bad.
loud, yeah. I
Sorry
hope
for
so.
that. To get back to the dream song, so we've been thinking a lot about right and wrong relationship,
Mhm.
and we kind of tongue-in-cheek call like if the masculine kind of abuses the feminine, it's not in service to the feminine. We call it like a metaphysical dick move, which kind of sounds nice. So we need to kind of fix all the dick moves to make it.
Yes.
And we call like the but if we fix the relationship, if we go into right relationship, two things happen at once. We recalibrate towards a new destiny, and we enter a new process at the same time. And we kind of started calling that place that we at once approximate the destiny and at once once we enter right relationship, ataraxia.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, ataraxia is the kingdom of the future.
it's the kingdom of right relationship.
Yes,
So
it's what happens if we are in right relationship in every aspect of our lives.
And you at once you enter it when you come into right relationship, and you also grow towards it.
Mm-hmm.
It's at once the goal and the process.
Yes, and also you will never arrive at the goal because we are not made to be perfect. We are made to learn. So the whole process is a process of learning. And if you are in the process, you already arrived at the goal because the goal is the learning.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So in ataraxia, the kingdom of ataraxia, the kingdom of right relationship, is what we introduced before, a dream song.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of are building that world together, dreaming it up together, and also intending to share that vision, but inviting everyone to feel and think about, or like dream up what a world would look like if all the relationships would enter a right relationship.
Yes.
If all the things that currently consume potential would flip around and create it, because there is no neutral relationship. It's only parasitic or symbiotic.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's either we go further along the path of fear and control, path of destruction, or we flip it around and with equal intensity go towards the light.
Yes.
So what does that world look like?
Yes. What is your dream? What does it look like? And I invite you to also think about the lizard and his teaching. Go the easy way.
Mhm.
If you have an easy way to express your dream and share it with other people, please do it.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about these kinds of ideas. Then we can also inspire more people to think about this. And if we have a vision that we are really in love with, it's the easiest to make it happen.
Mhm.
But first we really need to build that vision together. We need to dream it up. We need to feel its goodness. And gather around this vision, and then make it happen. And this is really what Remember the Future is a lot about. Remember your future.
Mm-hmm.
Remember. Start looking again. See your future. See, wow, this would be an amazing thing if that would happen in my life. Make it happen.
Yeah. And
what does your ataraxia look like? That's the question. And then we can all share our visions and then dream up a better world. And everything is possible.
Yeah.
Don't think you can dream too big. Just dream.
Yeah.
It's not important that you arrive at that specific thing. It's just important that you move in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start moving, good things will happen. And you don't, like the specific outcome you thought up in the beginning is not the important part. The important part is that you go along the path of dreams.
Yeah. And just one important framing for that is also one of the most fundamental and kind of transformative shifts in our, let's say, mythology was taking on what we got from indigenous cultures, this idea that stories are beings, or story is alive, something like that. And if you hold that stories are beings, then it's clear that there's this clear distinction between hallucinating and dreaming. So hallucinating implies that you kind of make shit up. And you can do that. That's possible. That's when you come from a place of fear, and like propaganda is a hallucination in a sense. Like you make shit up for control, out of fear, something like that. Dreaming is a sacred process. It's a process of you participate in a sacred dance with that sovereign being that is the story, that is the dream, the vision. So it's actually alive, and so is ataraxia. A dream song is like it lives, it's alive. It's
spirit.
Yeah, and it's like even one step further, like you are alive and the story is alive, but the love between you is also alive, and that's kind of like what the dream song is. Like there's this, I'm searching for the word, like communion, or like you enter into a relationship with the story, and your relationship tells a new story. So ataraxia is not a cold abstraction. Ataraxia is alive. Yes. And we invite you to find whatever being that kind of speaks to you.
Yes. What's the name of your future?
Yes.
And what does it look like? What does it want? What do you want?
And
then you have to dance the sacred dance with it, and move towards it. And like a dance works. Sometimes you also move away, but then you move back together, and it's just a dance.
Yes. And one important thing here is we've been talking a lot about yin and yang, and the masculine, feminine. The masculine needs to be in service to the feminine, and in this case, humans, us, we take the form of the masculine in this relationship, the seen, whereas the story takes the form of the feminine, the unseen. So it's clear that we need to serve the story, because then we enrich our substrate, and the story enriches our life. Like one way of saying is like if we give them life, if we give them love, or life is basically interchangeable, they give us beauty.
Yeah.
So this is how we create a more beautiful world. We serve the stories, and they do it for us. It's this reciprocal opening. So the flip side of that, I just wanted to place it somewhere. Like we've been talking about the dick move, right? Well, stories are actually very, very fundamental. Some people go as far as saying like story and spirit is basically two words for the same thing, and it's basically like the substrate of reality. Like, what is this? This is story. And a way of saying that is like story is that which mediates relationship, which is quite obvious if you look at a tree, for example. Your story about the tree with which you hold the tree determines completely the way you interact with it. If you think it's a dead thing, a resource for you to harvest, well, sooner or later you will harvest it as a resource, and it will be a dead thing. But if you think it's a living being, you will serve it, it will continue to live and
Yeah,
thrive.
you will talk to it, it will give you great advice about your life and solve all your problems with you.
Exactly. But so story mediates relationship. In this case, it's quite obvious. But we want to invite you to take that to its root, to its see the generality of that statement, because our reality is relational, right? We said the relationship between yin and yang is more fundamental. Story is that which mediates any form of relationship. So our relationship to story is before everything else. That's the primordial relationship. How do we relate to story? Which is a way of saying how do we relate to creation, actually.
Yeah.
So this is like the one thing that we think our culture needs to learn, is here to learn, which is that we are trapped in the primordial dick move, basically.
Yes.
We use story as a tool, and we totally forget that we are story. We think we're separate from story,
Yeah.
and then use it.
And then our story gets more and more ugly, and we wonder why.
Yes, and we create a whole world of hurt. That's
Yes.
basically what we're doing. And it all comes down to right relationship. And the first relationship, the relationship that precedes any other relationship, is our relationship to story.
Yes. And if you really embody these ideas, then you can remember the future. That's what this is about. And for me, it means to see life in everything.
Yeah.
And to see that everything has a spirit. There's a spirit of the squirrels, there's a spirit of the stone, there's a spirit of everything. And a big part of the project is to communicate with these spirits, to ask questions, to learn things, to also ask how we can help them better, how we can serve them. I know that the Kogi told us in Paris that they do rituals for different animals and find out what they need and provide it for them. So, for example, they say the snakes, they don't bite if everything is in harmony. So if you do rituals for the snakes and you make sure that they are fine, they won't bite you. So you don't need to worry about that because they are just happy. And I think that's a very wise idea. And I think we really need to start communicating again. Because what we've basically been doing the whole time was ignoring them. They keep telling us, you are doing something wrong. And we are just ignoring them and then fighting them. Because we think they attack us. But they don't attack us, they just try to communicate.
Yeah.
So the basic structure of this art project is, so one important part you already saw, is these kind of cards. And they are portraits of the spirits that I already met. And I will, this collection will grow over time. The more people we meet, the more people we will see here. And I also, I have one, the white cards. They are for the spirits as a portrait. And then I have also brown cards with special messages. For example, some tree talk, or some message. Tree talk is the messages we get for trees, or some sky talk, or some sand talk that you that came to you while you were walking at the beach. So we have here cards for spirits and spirit messages that I will just collect over time. And in connection to that, I built little portals, which are artworks that are here to channel these beings. So, for example, you have an issue about showing yourself, and you want to connect to the peacock. Then you can make a little ritual and take the peacock card and put the little portal on the peacock card and meditate with it. And the portal will be a portal to the peacock for you. And I will also make little meditations for every spirit I meet, so you can go and meet them in your meditation, ask them questions, get advice about everything that you want.
Do you want to talk about space-time and time-space to make that more clear? What you mean by go towards the peacock, like where he is?
Yes.
So there's like the most accessible way for this is actually there's this book by a German author called Michael Ende.
Yes, highly recommended.
The book is called The Never-Ending Story, or Die unendliche Geschichte in German. And basically, in this book, there's a boy who reads a book and then gets sucked into the book to a place called Phantasien or Fantasia, I guess. Like it's fantasy or imagination. That's kind of like, in German, Fantasie means more
the
like...
The land of imagination.
Yeah. And this is where stories live. And it's beyond space-time. It's somewhere else.
It's a dual space to space-time. It's
exactly.
time-space.
Yeah, that's how we like to call it. So in space-time, things are local. We have like physical space in which there is a distance. You have to walk somewhere. We have the Einsteinian speed limit. All of that stuff that physicists
you can
kind of
make a map of the territory.
Yes. So
but in time-space, you can't.
Yes.
Time-space is different.
This is where stories live, and where distance is different, defined very differently. In the book, he says that Fantasia is basically infinite in size. It never ends, but you travel through it through your will. So it's like there's not so it's infinite in size, but every place is reachable if you basically want it. And this is like if you talk a bit more technical, like this is a metric, a totally different metric that defines distance. But this metric is kind of alive. So it's like space-time is more like this object that physicists can rationally map. Time-space is actually the source of space-time. It's beneath it. It's more fundamental. And this is something that you can only navigate trans-rationally, kind of going back to what we said before. Like
based on your feeling.
Based on your feelings and on choice. It's not the realm of causality. And so this is where stories live. But time, space, and space-time are also, like, there's this relationship between the two, which is more fundamental. So they dance with each other. So if you create an artwork, what you're doing is you're channeling from time-space into space-time. This is what Anna did here.
Yes.
And so when she places the portal on that, she basically amplifies
my will
story.
To go to that space.
Exactly.
Like, I will now enter time-space, and I want to go where the peacock lives, or I want to visit the turtle.
Yeah.
And then you can just do a meditation and go there and be with the turtle and ask the turtle questions, and you will receive answers.
And just to make that very clear, going beyond space-time is like the first intuition you would have is like we build a spaceship and fly beyond space-time. But space-time doesn't end out there. The boundary of space-time is right in here. The inner planes, there's like, we can say like the inner planes and the outer planes, but this is actually like kind of tricky because it feels like the inner planes are inside the outer planes. But it's actually exactly the inversion of that. The outer planes originate in the inner planes. So when Anna says go into space-time, into time-space, where the peacock lives, she actually talks about going within.
Yes.
Going into your land of imagination. This is actually the source of everything.
And just a quick thing to make it more
tangible.
Tangible. Every night you dream, you go there.
Yes.
This is where you dream.
Yeah.
And you can get more and more conscious of it. Like, for example, you can do lucid dreaming, or you can go astral travel. This is all about the same space. And when you meditate and you do some kind of journey with your guided meditation where you go to some place, this is the This is all time-space.
Yeah.
So you know it. You've spent there a third of your life if you slept a third of your life.
Yeah.
You've been there all the time. If you have a vision, it comes from there.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is something new. It's something that was always there. And something you are connected to at all times.
Yeah.
It's where your creative ideas come from. They all arise in there, and then they come towards you, and then you can make them happen in space-time as well.
And it's especially, so this author, Michael Ende, he's known as a children's book author, but he corrected that in multiple times, saying he is not writing to children, he's writing to the child in all of us. So your inner child actually intuitively knows. He just reminds you, or makes you remember everything you already know.
Yes.
So it's like your inner child that is able to navigate that place. And you were born with the deep knowing that this is a real place.
Yes. You've lived there when you were a child.
Yeah, we all did.
Yes.
And it's
It
actually
was
the way
amazing.
forward is to remember that.
Yes. Yes. All right. So, yeah. So the first part is the spirit cards, and then also the portal and the meditations to travel to the spirits. I think, and this is also kind of learning how to communicate with the universe again. So this is like the communication part. And then I have another part, which is this book. And this book is, it's a spell book. But the idea is, okay, we first need to talk about magic. So, magic, we've all heard of it, but we've been convinced that it's not really true. Like, we think of magicians as tricksters who move their hands so quickly that you don't see that they are not actually magicians. But this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real magic. Because magic is really real. Like, if you really take a look around yourself, if you listen to the frog, you see there's magic everywhere. So, real magic is understanding the universe at a deep level so that what you do looks magical from the outside, but actually is the most natural thing that can happen. For example, what we've been talking about with manifesting your dreams. If you align yourself with the universe and you want to manifest your dreams, it will be easy, no problem. From the outside, people will be like, why are you so lucky? Why does everything fall into place when you do it? And you're just like, well, you know, I found a magic trick, which is just to see reality more fully, and then to act accordingly, to act in accord with nature. Then life becomes easy.
Yeah.
So this is what magic is all about. And this book of spells is about okay, we first need to talk more about magic.
Yeah, I can add to that.
Yes.
So just I like to make things rigorous.
Yes,
With
please.
the immanent metaphysics, it's possible to
Yeah,
do
we
that.
need some masculine energy here.
So the immanent metaphysics, everything, it constructs everything out of trinities, yin yang, and the relationship. But you can also like take trinities and kind of do like a Cartesian product, like multiply them, and then you get more things out of it, more combinations of these yin and yangs. So Forrest Landry, the discoverer of the metaphysics, talks about the sixth path, which, the way I read it, is like there are these three modalities of path, and each path has like an expressive and a perceptive direction. So to make that clear, I just name them now. So you have science and technology, religion and spirituality, and mysticism and magic. These are the six paths. And I like to focus now on science, technology, and mysticism and magic, because they mirror each other, one being the rational, the other being the transrational. So science is a perceptive endeavor, a rationally perceptive endeavor, which fundamentally rests on this assumption of separation. So you have the subject, the scientist, exploring an object through experiment and repetition, and kind of extracting knowledge from a separate thing. Nature is a separate thing, and you extract knowledge from it. You perceive it from the outside. That's what a scientist does. This is what the criticism is of science, because you are not able to scientifically research the inner planes. They are actually more fundamental, so we're missing a lot. Science is beautiful, but it needs to know its place.
Yeah. Right now it doesn't. It thinks it's everything.
That's part of the primordial move.
Yes.
So, but technology is then the expression of that same path, the expression on the basis of separation. So if I want to, for example, move a stone, well, the stone is separate from me. There's a separation between us, so cooperation is not really possible. I will need to use angle and force and causality, basically, to move that thing. And this is the DNA of technology. It's an expressive path or capacity based on a story of separation. Mysticism and magic is the transrational mirror of this rational approach. It rests on the story of what Thich Nhat Hanh or Charles Eisenstein call interbeing, the oneness of everything. So mysticism is basically a perceptive capacity that is not viewing nature from the outside, but more from the inside. Being like, I am not separate from nature, and there's a way of knowing. You can, you can gather knowledge on that basis. Meaning, for example, when Anna is talking to the trees, tree talk is not science. It's mysticism. That's what it is. You perceive on the basis that you're not two. And you feel what it wants to tell you. The same as the other way around with magic. Magic is the expressive path along the same transrational line, which means like, I want to move that rock. Well, if I can truly recognize that me and the rock are not two, well, then interesting things can happen. Or we can say, I'm not able to do it, but
not yet.
But there's definitely there's there, and that's what the Kogi also, like, when they talk about ancient technology, it's like it's all terminology. But I would actually, with that framing, say they're talking about this wholeness technology, which is actually magic and mysticism. When they talk to the whales, that's mysticism.
Yes.
When they talk, when they do what they do, when they do original, so the snakes don't bite. They don't need anti-poison, anti-venom, because they're just not even being bitten. That's magic. It's a other form of technology.
Yes. And I think with that, the framing is very, very powerful here, because I think the part with the cards and the portal is the mysticism part, and then this book is the magic part.
I love that.
Because the idea of this book is it also has a yin and yang, like everything is structured according to this principle. So here the yin and yang with the cards is the spirits themselves are the yin, and then their messages are the yang. And then you can travel to them in the yin with the portals, which are the yang of the traveling. And then in this book of magic, it has black sides and it has white sides. And the white sides are the yin, are the general ideas about magic, like what do different symbols mean, what are the techniques we use, how do the moon phases work, and what kind of energies do they have, like kind of skills and techniques and knowings. And the black part is the transformational part. And I will give you one example, because it's the easiest to understand, because it's a bit complex. But first I want to read this poem to you, because it kind of explains what this part of the project is about. These spells, how they work. Okay, so I will read the poem to you about what this little book of spells is all about. So the heading is Transformation, Spark to Flame. To see with eyes of love at last the problem and the spell to cast. Whenever you forget what's true, remember quickly, get a clue, ask within and ask without how to bring positive change around. If your wish is pure and true, soon the answer comes to you. Share with your world, without within, what it is you want to win. If it is truly good for all, the universe gives you a call and simply lets your wish come true, for it is what you always knew.
I love that.
Yes, it really summarizes what these spells are about, because like there are these concepts of white magic and black magic, and the idea is that black magic is like quote unquote bad, or and white magic is good. But what it really means is white magic is in alignment with the universe. White magic points out the truth, and that makes it so powerful, because it doesn't need to convince you, because you just feel, yeah, that's kind of true. And that's exactly the kind of magic I want to do here. So I don't want to make illusions and convince myself of them. I want to find the truth, point it out, and use magic as a tool of pointing it out to myself. So you can live from right relationship, because you know this is true. So the idea here is that you have different kinds of how to start it. Like the first way is the universe gives you a hint. For example, a turtle. You see lots of turtles at some point for no reason whatsoever, and you find out, the turtle is about holding back your power. And then you can ask yourself, well, what makes me open up to my power? And then you can find out what it is. For example, by using cards. I used the Polarity Oracle cards from Amy, and I asked a question. In this case, it was, what holds me back from my feminine power? And then I got 3 cards that correspond to these 3 principles, and these 3 cards tell me what kind of aspect in myself needs to be in service to that other kind of aspect in this relationship. And with these cards, I could see that the masculine part was that I just have to choose things and just do them, because I was always wondering what is the right thing, and that was holding me back from really acting. And it has to be in service to the feminine part, which is to listen to the universe. So really this mysticism part that we've been talking about, really do this in service to listening. So don't think you know yourself what's best, but listen, You are like, something holds me back from this. What is it? Ask the universe, get a clue, get some kind of feedback, ask a spirit, ask the cards, ask whatever you feel drawn to ask, and then find out what it is. And when you have this clarity, that says to you, well, you have to just choose things and just do them and just focus on one thing and finish it from start to end in service to listening. So first listen what it is you should do, and then just do it. And don't think about if there's a better idea or anything like that. Just do it. And when you have this clarity, you can make a spell that reminds you of that truth. So in this case, I made a spell which is a sandhog symbol that I can draw and that holds this energy of this kind of process. So the idea is to use magic, very personal form of magic, for solving your problems, for showing you where you are in wrong relationship, pointing out the right relationship to you, activating an inner remembering of that truth, and then you can live from the right relationship. Yes.
So this is like the drawing the 3 cards, mapping them to the modalities. That's what
Yes.
you're talking about, right? That
Yes.
This is like a technique or like
Yes, this is the technique.
a magic
And
ritual.
I think the technique can also change
Mhm.
and improve. But for now, for this example, the technique was to ask a question, ask it to the cards, get
Yeah.
3 answers according to these 3 modalities,
Yeah.
and then find what is the spell that reminds you of the truth.
And again, I can provide some training wheels for those of us who struggle with getting over the skeptical mind.
Mm-hmm.
One of the deepest transformational insights that I got from the immanent metaphysics actually is that chance or randomness is what choice looks like from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Really meditate on that,
Mm-hmm.
all the implications of that. It's not like, or sometimes randomness is actually meaningful, but most of the time it's just random. Somewhere, some place, it is choice. You just see it from the outside. So if you draw 3 cards randomly, that's not really random. It goes back to finding languages so the universe can talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
This happens to be a quite powerful language.
Yes.
Because the better, like the quality of a language, the expressive power is basically given by how much, let's say, the geometry of the language kind of resonates with the cosmos,
Mhm.
you know? And it's a very, very deep insight that everything consists of yin yang and relationship, of trinities.
Mm-hmm.
So crafting a language based on that is a powerful thing. And I think you tapped into something very powerful here. And I'm really curious if more people play with it, how
Mhm.
transformative this tool will become.
Yes, I think it's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Because I think, yes, like I said before, like if you really listen to the universe, if you have the intention to heal, and you listen to the universe and you ask the universe for advice, you ask your mirror for advice, what it is you need right now, and then you go that path, then healing and transformation will just come to you. It's not effortful. Not really. It's just
It's joyful.
you have to decide that you want it, and then you get it, and then it will be so relieving. It's like such a relief to finally start releasing everything that holds you back and just do what you're here to do and do what really makes you happy. Yes. So this is the basic structure of the project.
I think you gave a quite well overview.
Yes.
We were able to place a lot of vocabulary that is kind of necessary to communicate it in between.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the flow turns out to be watchable.
Yes,
I think so.
so.
And it's like it's like kind of we co-create this worldview.
Mm-hmm.
That I take it some places that are more masculine, you take it some places that are more feminine, which are gorgeous. But it's like I'm joining here partly because this helping to communicate kind of all of these stories
Mm-hmm.
that accompany our life, our shared life. And we hope that both the language was able to be transmitted and also what we wanted to say with that language.
Yes, yes. And if you want to learn more about the underlying philosophical ideas, you can also check out what David does, because he points it out in a more rational way, more framing the frames.
Yeah.
And I will put out what I do in a more embodied way. So you have both sides and you can see what speaks more to you, or maybe you want to look at everything. You can do what you want. But yeah, this is what we have to offer.
And we hope that by now, if we did a good job at communicating the way we think, that you kind of spotted already that here's a yin, here's a yang, but the more fundamental thing is the relationship between them. So, yeah.
Yes. So we invite you to remember the future together with us, to share your ideas. Very interested to see what your dreams